If you want to buy someone a board game this Christmas and you have no idea what to get, you're in the right place. I've got 10 games that will make great gifts, and I've broken them up into 3 price brackets, 10, 20, and £30. So you can spend an amount of money equal to how much you like them. Unless you're buying for your father-in-law, because we can't go into minus figures. If you do want to buy any of them, there are links below. This video is sponsored by Magic the Gathering Foundations, available at Zavvi. This game, Trio, is like chocolate. If you're buying a gift for someone you don't know, whether it's your boss's niece or your niece's boss, you can always get them chocolate. I mean Trio. It's an instant winner because it feels familiar, like something you played growing up. On your turn, you ask another player to reveal their highest or lowest card. You're trying to find trios of the same number. It's like you're playing Go Fish and you ask another player to give you all their threes, but instead they give you a better card game. Tom's highest card is a 12, so you go again trying to find another 12 to get that trio. So you ask Dave, but his highest is a 10, so you've gone bust. And now the other players have that information, they can try and hunt for another 12. The challenge is in remembering what you've seen and where. You know you've seen another 12 somewhere, but did Anna have it or was it Becky? It's so much more fun than a typical memory game because you connect the memory to your friends, not the cards. Tom has a 12 because that's how many pounds he owes me for kicking my football into a tree when we were 11. That's how I can remember that he has an 11. Easy. And what you know changes. If someone claims all the 12s, that changes what people's highest cards are. When someone reveals 2 of the same number but goes bust, it becomes a race to find the third. And if you have it, your hand starts burning. You're desperately hoping they don't ask you, and it will get to your turn so you can score it yourself. But that stress can give you away. If you start acting like a smuggler at an airport, nervously looking at your cards, they're gonna pick you to empty your pockets. I love the moments of frustration as someone steals a trio out from under you. And the absolute elation that you were able to reach to the bottom of your mind to remember where that 6 was that you saw 10 turns ago. Trio is one of those joyous little card games that packs so much entertainment into the simplest, smallest of things. I've played this with so many different groups from 3 to 6 players, and it's always a fun time. For just £12, you can buy someone the best card game of the last few years, Sea Salt and Paper, that puts the petite in competitive. It's also French, so that works on 2 levels. It comes in an adorably small box and has this amazing artwork of origami sea life. The idea is you're collecting sea creatures, trying to get to 7 points as fast as possible so you can end the round and bank them. Every turn, you have to decide between taking a card you can see or gambling on something better hidden beneath the surface by drawing from the deck. It's like dating in the olden times. Do you accept your perfectly sturdy cousin who's right there? Or do you arrange a marriage to someone you've never met, who could be even uglier? What's nice about drawing from the deck is those pesky rivals don't know what you've got. You keep your cards secret, so no one knows about my 3 octopuses. But if one shows up in the discard pile, I'm gonna have to take it, and now everyone knows what I'm collecting because they caught me leaving the octopus fetish shop. That secrecy makes the game so exciting because as soon as someone gets to 7 points, they can end the round and score. So the whole time you're terrified someone's gonna get there first and pull the rug out from under you. And the best bit of the game is when you end the round, if you think no one else is doing that well, you can bet your points that the other players won't be able to catch you, even with an extra turn. It's the ultimate brag, like a runner giving you a head start and still beating you. And it's such a fun gamble because you don't really know what everyone else has. You're just assuming that you're killing it. And the game always gives you hope that you can turn it around. These action cards let you take an extra turn or sift through the discard pile to get what you need. And if you play a shark and a swimmer, you can steal a card from another player. You can even shoot for the moon. If you bag all 4 mermaid cards, you immediately win the game. I've never seen it happen, but the dream keeps you going. Sea Salt and Paper is wonderful. It feels fresh and exciting every time I play it. And if you want to make the gift even better, the Extra Salt expansion is a great condiment to sprinkle on top. It adds a unique blend of 8 herbs and spices, cards, that feel right at home in the game and fit in the original box. It's almost impossible to get a game for less than £10 these days, but I've found one for you penny pinchers to buy and still have £1 left over to get one Mars bar. Ugh, no wonder you're penny pinching. Flip Circus is a neat little 2-player game that comes in a pouch, which you can put in your pocket and play anywhere. The game is in this circle of poker chips which represent your circus performers. Your goal is to get 3 of the same performer next to each other to win their tile. The trouble is, these flipping tokens are double-sided, with a different flipping performer on each side, so you've got to flip and find them first. Every turn you get 2 actions. For example, you can swap 2 adjacent tokens around, or flip a token over, hoping to find what you need. And the game gives you a hint of what could be on the other side with these coloured dots. But flipping them over gives information to your opponent. If you use the fortune teller, you can secretly look at the other side, but now you need to remember what they are, which becomes a slow game of following which cup the ball is in as the poker chips move around the circle. Don't go checking your phone, you'll lose where everything is. And the beauty of leaving the performers face down is your opponent doesn't know which one you're trying to collect and won't be able to steal your hard work. If you do manage to pull it off, it's such a great achievement, like organising a surprise party that they never suspected. But it's so funny when you've been working on it for ages, you go for the big reveal and one of them is the wrong performer. It's that scene in Home Alone 2 where Kevin catches up to the man in a brown coat and it's not his dad. Even just getting the performers into position can be a tricky puzzle. The strong men refuse to swap positions with anyone because it threatens their masculinity. The acrobat can swap with the token opposite, except the lion tamer who doesn't allow it. So you really have to think around the houses, flipping the lion tamer over so you can move her without her permission, then flip her back. Flip Circus is the perfect game to play with your partner in the pub or before a meal. It's quick to set up, needs very little space, and has the right balance of tactics and luck for a 15-minute game. Today's video is sponsored by Magic the Gathering Foundations, the best way for new players to discover Magic. If you were around in the 90s like me, you remember Magic the Gathering taking your school by storm.
I love playing Magic the Gathering.
Okay, so maybe I wasn't quite that young in the 90s.
Mate, this game is blatantly random.
Which back then was a good thing. But if you didn't get into it then, it can be hard to know where to start now with a game that has 27,000 different cards, which is why they've created Foundations as a new way to enter the game. The beginner box has everything you need to learn the ropes. It contains 2 instant play decks with guides to teach you the best strategies when playing with them, plus playmats and life counters. Everything you need for 2 players to get going. Another quick way into the game is with jumpstart boosters. If you shuffle any 2 of them together, it will create a deck that you can immediately start playing with. Then when you're ready to go deeper, the starter collection will give you over 350 cards to start building your own decks. And to enhance your decks with the fancy rare and foil cards, you can buy these collector boosters. No matter your way in, the Foundations range will make it as smooth as possible, so it'll feel just like you got into Magic in the 90s. Almost.
Oasis are back on tour. Blink-182's got a new album out. Man, the 90s is so wicked. Wait, what's this ring on my finger? Am I married? It better be to Rachel from Friends.
You can buy Magic the Gathering Foundation sets at Zavvi UK. There's a link in the description below. And you'll get free delivery if you use the code MTGFree. If you know someone who likes medical dramas like House, then I would highly recommend Medical Mysteries, a game of working together to save people's lives. A patient has come into your emergency department, and it's your job to find out what's wrong with them and how to treat them. In the tutorial scenario, Luana is complaining of back pain, and you can see she's sweaty with a high temperature and elevated heart rate. Maybe she's just learnt the price of Mars bars. So where do you start? You could interview the patient to get more information, or run some tests, a urinalysis, CBC blood test, or an MRI. You pick one and look up the code in the book to get the results. You only have limited time, so you can't do everything. Just like in a detective game, you have to spot the little details and listen to your gut. And you could do that with an ultrasound. What I love about this game is it's all based on real medicine. The tests that you run and the diseases they have are all true to life or death. And so if you've ever obsessively watched every episode of ER like I have, you're gonna have a leg up with knowing what to do. And know how to pronounce cool words like ciprofloxacin, electroencephalography, and stroke without sounding like you're having one. But even if you haven't, all the information you need is in the game. You're given these crib sheets which tell you about all the relevant illnesses they could have, and the red herrings, so you've got to spot which ones line up with their symptoms. Underneath, it's basically an escape room game, trying to solve the puzzle, but on the surface, it's so much more exciting because this person is going to die if you don't wake up and get your head in the game. And things can go south quickly. You have to decide their treatment and which drugs to give them. And if you make the wrong call, they can and will die. I've not had it happen to me because I've watched 300 episodes of ER, but it could happen to you if you don't wake up and get your head in the game. If you make the right choices, your patient will survive the night, and you get a score based on the decisions you made. There's 4 patients in the box, and they get harder as you go on, which is exactly how a night shift at the emergency room normally goes. If you love detective games like I do, this is the perfect translation. It's the Dr. House to our Sherlock Holmes. And with this one, you actually learn something. So if nothing else, you've now got a greater list of scary illnesses for you to imagine that you've got. As board games get more expensive, I've got a little hack to get a great board game for half the price, and that is to buy the mini version. Azul Mini gives you all the puzzly goodness of Azul, because it's exactly the same game, but with smaller pieces. And as someone who's short on space, I would roll out the red carpet for whoever came up with this idea, but I had to get rid of it. If you've not heard of Azul, let's take the rock you've been living under and turn it into some beautiful tiles. We are collecting these Portuguese azulejos and adding them to our personal board to build a mosaic. And if there's one thing they say in the mosaic community, it's gaps are bad. So every time you add a tile, you get points for each connected tile in that row or column. You're being rewarded for your neatness, which is innately satisfying. But getting the tiles you want is the tricky part. You can take all of one color from a coaster to add it to your board, but it doesn't get placed onto your wall until you fill up that row. So you're trying to get exactly what you need, because if you take too many, they end up on the floor and you get minus points for being wasteful. The mosaic community does not take kindly to wastefulness. To finish the saying from before, gaps are bad, but waste is worse. The tiles you don't take are pushed into the middle, so you're trying to plan ahead, push something into the middle that you can grab later. But expect your opponents to take it first. Azul has more bite than your typical personal puzzle game. Especially at 2 players, you'll keep an eye on what your opponent needs and try to leave them with tiles they don't want to give them minus points. I got rid of the big Azul from my collection, as shown in this provocative thumbnail, but now that I can own a version that's 3 times smaller, it's returned to my shelves, rocking a fun density of 146 over the original's 44. For £20, you won't find a more popular modern board game, and it's so nice to have the option to take a full-on board game on holiday. With its small recessed boards, you can even play it on the tray tables of an aeroplane. So even if they already have the big Azul, this is still a nice gift for gamers who travel. Or you could get them the mini version of Summer Pavilion, which would give them a different game to try from the same family. If you're buying for someone who likes music, and who doesn't like music, you could get them Hitster, a game about guessing when famous songs were released. You scan the back of a card with your phone and it plays you a song. While you're listening to it, you've got to guess where in the timeline that song fits. So if you've got Toxic by Britney Spears, did that come out before or after Waterfalls by TLC in 1995? You put it where you think it goes, then flip it over to see if you're right. And it slowly gets harder as the gaps in your timeline get smaller. Did Skater Boy by Avril Lavigne come out between 95 and 03, or was it between 03 and 08? It's such an easy game to get into, you can just start playing. And unlike older trivia games, it's not really frustrating. You don't need to know the exact date, just make a rough guess. Think back, were you singing to Spice Girls in front of a mirror when you were 13? That seems a bit old to be doing that, but it does sound like you. You don't even need to know the name of the song or the artist, which means you can play it with a variety of ages. I'd never heard I Like You by Post Malone before, but I could guess that it's a newer song because it's terrible. But if you can guess the name, you win a token which you can spend to skip a song or try and steal a card from someone else when you think they've made an incorrect guess. The game's app uses Spotify to play the music, so you also need to have that app installed, but you don't need to pay for it, it works with the free version. And the songs they've picked are great. It spans 100 years of music, and I really enjoyed just listening to each new track because it's such a great selection of classics. I'd say I recognised about 95% of the songs, and it felt really well tailored for the UK, whereas if you bought it in the US, you'd get a different mix, as opposed to Little Mix. It's not often I'd recommend such a mass market game, they're usually a bit basic. This one doesn't even give you a printed rulebook, but I can't get around the fact that the core fun of Hitster is brilliant, and goes down at a party as well as Africa by Toto, released in 1982. Board games at Christmas have long helped families work through their true feelings by giving them an excuse to be mean to each other. If your family could use some cardboard catharsis this Christmas, there is no greater gift than Survive the Island, in which you can attack your grandma with a sea monster and not even apologise. You each have a group of survivors on this island that you're trying to keep alive, which is incredibly hard because the island is sinking into the ocean, and the ocean is overflowing with monsters, and the monsters will eat you. It's your classic escape from a sinking island while Godzilla and his mates chase you trope that we're all familiar with. To get your people to safety, you're trying to get them onto these rafts and sail them to the shore, but there's only so many rafts to go around, and that's what everyone else is trying to do as well. You can make temporary friends and share rafts, or skip straight to being sworn enemies and sail them away without filling the seats. Every turn, a tile sinks into the sea, and you get to pick which one, so of course you pick the one with your auntie on, who did not compliment your roast potatoes this year. She's now swimming in the ocean, ready to be eaten by the monsters. Perhaps they will appreciate your potatoes when they tear open her stomach. As you uncover the tiles, they will add more sharks and kaiju to the board, turning this pleasant beach into an inhospitable hellscape, or as we in the UK call it, Blackpool. And then you roll the die. That tells you which type of monster you can move. So you send a sea serpent to eat the raft that's carrying your sister and her husband's people, because for Christmas, they sponsored a goat in your name. And you hate goats. What transpires is a Christmas miracle of backstabbing and revenge, which Jesus himself would have appreciated, although for him it makes more sense at Easter. You will be begging the dice to give you a kaiju so you can destroy the boat that your uncle's survivors are in, and praying to flip over a whirlpool that drowns everyone. It's so much fun watching the chaos unravel and trying to get someone, anyone, out alive. What adds some strategy is that each survivor has a hidden number underneath it. Some are worth a lot more to keep alive than others, so you're trying to get them to safety first, which means it's always an exciting finish as everyone reveals which survivors they managed to save. Survive the Island is a great game to give to a family, plays 2 to 5 players and costs less than 30 quid. If you're buying for someone that plays a lot of 2-player games, get them the Lord of the Rings Duel for Middle-earth, a brand new one that's packed full of tough decisions. One player plays as the plucky hobbits, while the other plays as Lord Sauron, who is not a good guy by all accounts. What makes this game special is there are 3 ways to win. You're fighting 3 different battles with each other at the same time, and you have to decide how to divide your efforts. You're like a one-handed man in 3 tug-of-wars. Which rope do you pull next? But your options are limited by what's available. You must choose a card from this pyramid that will let you take an action, but you can only pick from the bottom cards that aren't covered up. As you take cards, others will become available, so it's just as important what you take as what you then grant to your opponent. You don't want to take the last slice at the Pizza Hut buffet if that reveals a fresh new pizza for your nemesis. Taking a blue card will advance your quest for the ring. The hobbits win if they reach Mount Doom, and Sauron wins if he catches the hobbits. Taking a green card will rally support from the local races of Middle-earth. If you manage to get 1 for each of the 6 races, you'll win the game. And taking a red card means you can place your troops onto the map, starting a battle if your opponent is in that region. If you're present in all 7 regions, you win the game. So which do you do? Do you plow all your efforts into one goal, or keep your options open and do a bit of everything? Each of the duels is a race. As soon as you complete it, you win, which makes the game really tense. You can't take your eye off your opponent for a second. But that shouldn't be hard for Sauron. The only thing I would caution is this isn't a strongly thematic Lord of the Rings experience. It's got some beautiful artwork of the universe, but the game is first and foremost a strategic head-to-head 2-player game, but one that is immensely replayable as you explore different approaches each time you play. If you're looking for something to buy for a kid, then Spotlight is a great pick, because it turns Where's Wally into a board game. And you'll have them hooked as soon as you show them this. The magic of the game is moving around your white spotlight to light up the illustrations on this transparent sheet. It's a delightful invention and so refreshing to be wowed by something that doesn't require batteries or a phone. Your job is simple. A card tells you which character you need to find, and you have a minute to move your spotlight through the teeming crowds to find your little guy. Except he's not there just once, you have to count how many times he appears, and it could be anything from 1 to 10. Plus, he won't be smiling straight at you like that try-hard Wally. He could be side on, bending over, doing yoga. There's so much going on that it's a challenge to get through it and feel like you've seen it all in a minute, but you don't have to get the number dead on, and I promise you, you won't. Everyone makes a secret guess, and then you turn over the card to see what the actual number was. As long as you don't guess too many, you'll move up the track, trying to avoid getting caught by the moon. Whereas if you overbid, even by 1, you won't move at all. The basic game is cooperative, which is great for young kids who don't like getting left behind, but you can also play it competitively when they're ready to embarrass their parents with the pristine reflexes of youth. To keep things fresh, each of the 5 boards is a different landscape to search through, and there are 60 characters to hunt down. There isn't one Wally hogging the limelight in Spotlight, so I doubt you're going to remember anything from one game to the next. It's really just a brilliant gimmick turned into a game, but I appreciate how much thought they've put into it. You can make it easier for kids by playing with the starred characters, which are easier to find, and harder for adults by giving them a smaller flashlight. The artwork is wonderful. It's the kind of kids game that parents will enjoy too, and I'm definitely adding it to my daughter's future collection for when she's old enough. If you're willing to push the boat out and you want to buy them a big board game for 2 to 4 players that is competitive, strategic, and loads of fun, then get Nunatak Temple of Ice. You're all collectively building an ice pyramid, which by the end of the game will look something like this. And like any good collaborator, you're trying to get as much credit as possible for doing the same amount of work. Every turn you will place one of your blocks of ice onto the board and take a card that matches the symbol in that spot. You're collecting cards to score big points at the end of the game. The builders are a competition between the players. Whoever has the most will get 20 points. The sculptors are worth more points the more you collect, and the artisans come in sets. So as the game goes on, you desperately want certain cards, and that forces you to place your blocks in certain spots to get them. So that's pulling you in one direction, but placement is really important too. When a 2x2 square is finished, the tower will grow and you score that square. If you have the most blocks there, you get 5 points. Whereas if you're tied and you place the final block, you steal those 5 points from the players you tied with. And these squares are filling up fast, so you might want the sculptor card, but if you don't go on the architect spot, you'll miss out on those 5 points. So you've got your long-term strategy of what cards you want. That's the big points. Buy a house, get married, have kids. And then every turn, there's the short term, nights out and expensive hobbies distracting you from that. The short term is good. If you can bank 5 points a turn, that's massive. But how much are you going to have to ruin your long-term plans to do that? It's a classic board game dilemma, and Nunatak delivers it in such a simple way. Turns are quick. You can look ahead and know where you want to place. Then someone takes the card you need, and you have to adapt. Adapt to them not being your friend anymore. It's got a really nice amount of interaction between the players. You're getting in each other's way, taking what others want, but only because you want it too. It reminds me of Ticket to Ride, an approachable strategy game on a shared board that you could play with anyone. And it's a lovely gift because it's got such nice table presence. Those are my 10 picks for great Christmas gifts this year. To buy them, there are links below that will help support the channel. If you like this video, please subscribe to see more, or become a patron of the channel to get monthly exclusive content. I'm John Perkis, thanks for watching, and happy Christmas.